Welcome back to Fleshing It Out with Samantha Spittle. This is the full flush edition with Emily Yarrison. If you haven't listened to her pit stop, you can go ahead and listen to that. And it's all about storytelling and personal connection. We continue the conversation, getting to know more about Emily. What I love about the world of storytelling is not only do you get to know people, but you get to connect on really fun levels, because when you are a storyteller, you naturally start digging into your life. And so Emily shares her traveling. She's a big international traveler. She talks about tutoring, teaching. And so if you enjoy getting to know people, kind of know how they tick, what they do, I highly encourage you to listen in and enjoy my friend, Emily Yarrison.
Coming to you from the M&M Exterior Studio in Nooksville, Virginia, this is Flushing It Out with Samantha Spittle, the introvert's extrovert. She talks to people so you don't have to. For now.
Welcome back to the Full Flush. Emily, you are an adventurous person. You've done lots of international travel. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like that is something that a lot of people haven't done.
Yeah.
And we could dive into that because I think you've had a lot of good life lessons and fun experiences, and new perspectives because of it that deserve to be heard.
Definitely.
So
Hopefully they deserve that.
I don't know. You get what you deserve, people. So tell us, where have you been? Where have your adventures taken you?
Overall, I think I have been to 21 countries.
What?
20 or 21.
I thought you were going to say 5 or 6.
No. So this started when I was 12. And my church growing up had a sister church in Romania. And there was like a trip, like a youth trip. And we did a lot of fundraising, and my parents like broke their bank to send me.
Just you or any of your siblings?
No, just me.
Oh.
They were doing other stuff.
Okay.
So like my brother was going to this like smart kid camp, and my sister was doing diving at a pretty elite level. So they were like doing other things that were draining the funds. So my parents were like, we gotta give her something.
We've got to tap ourselves for her so she feels loved too.
Yeah. So I got to go to Hungary and Romania when I was 12, which was pretty cool. It was an interesting experience. I like stayed in in the village with the church members, and that was like 1999. So yeah, it's just a very different experience, especially for like a 12-year-old. I'd never been outside of the U.S. Obviously, and like most of my travel at that point had been on the East Coast and hadn't really gone past like Michigan. So. As far as West goes. So
your mind was blown with that there was a whole world out there.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then I went in college. I went on like a Euro trip. Like my friend's dad lives in Sweden, so we like went his and her stepmom and their 2 kids, and we went and stayed with them, and then I went by myself to, like, she stayed with him the whole time, and then I went by myself to Germany and visited a friend that was studying abroad, and then I went alone. I went to Zurich and Berlin, and I went back up to Malmö, Sweden.
And what did you do alone? I want to jump into that a little because I've heard, on when I check my news sources, which is BuzzFeed a lot of the time.
Yeah. BuzzFeed quizzes.
Yes. And, top things you need to do before you turn 30 or 40 or whatever. And it's like traveling alone is oftentimes on those lists.
Yes.
So what is it like to travel alone?
Okay. So it's so funny. Because at 21, traveling alone was like a nightmare for me. I hated it. I was so like, keeping in mind that at this point, George W. Bush is still president.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm like a liberal college student, so I'm, like, very caught up in that, about, like, how Europeans are going to view me. And,
very worried.
Very worried. And, I just like, I was so shy and that's not me. Like you
Really?
met me, like I'm not very shy. And I
You
was
were like
really
insecure to be,
I was so insecure. And my friend Rebecca and I, the one that I went with, we've always had like, trouble with like confidence and like body confidence and stuff. And so both of us joke now that we're, 32, that we're like, oh, we were just so embarrassed to exist like at that. And so I like just didn't want to talk to anybody. And like, I mean, I'm in Sweden and like literally everyone speaks English. And I'm like, I wouldn't go order a coffee. Like I just like, I went to the grocery store and I had like no money. So I bought like, I don't know, cashews, like a little packet of cashews. Yeah. Well, I think that I lost like a bunch of weight on that trip because I like couldn't afford any food. But, it was, yeah. So I'm like, I stayed in hostels and I did meet a couple of people, but, yeah, I was just really afraid to interact with locals, because I was so insecure. And
I love how you said it. I was sad. What did you say about, you didn't want to like bother to exist and not like in a sad way. Embarrassed to exist. Yeah.
I was just like,
oh, I'm sorry that I'm here.
I'm sorry. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. And so I was really nervous and I just didn't want to have to interact with anyone. And it was like, so when you don't talk to people, it can be pretty lonely. Although I did still have some pretty interesting experiences. Like it was during the 2008, Euro Cup and the only people in this hostel in Malmö, Sweden were me and a bunch of Polish migrant workers. So it was like me and them. And so there's like the one TV, right? And like the lounge. And so we were watching like Poland play soccer and they were super into it. And they were like,
you got into it.
Yeah. And they were like really nice to me. And it was really fun. It was really fun. Like it was fun to be around like a bunch of people who were so excited. And, so that felt like a really nice, authentic experience. But so the funniest story in that regard was, so my friend Rebecca, her stepmom's brother lives in Stockholm and his, partner, and they were super nice and like were driving us around Stockholm and like showing us stuff. And, they had this like beautiful apartment and we stopped to get gas and the only other person getting gas is the Swedish prince.
What?
Yeah. So like, the Swedish prince is right there. And actually her step uncle this prince had done like an internship at his company or something. And so he like kind of knew him. And so his partner, Jessica, was super nice. She's like, oh, do you guys want to take a picture? And the both of us were like, no, we don't want to talk to him. Like,
we're so embarrassed to just be here.
We were just like, no, thank you. But, and then we get to, her dad and stepmom lived in Gothenburg at the time, which is on the other side of Sweden. And we get there and her stepmom was like, I've lived in Sweden my whole life and I've never seen the prince.
Oh.
We were like, yeah.
And we refused to take a picture because we were embarrassed to exist.
So embarrassed. Oh. Yeah. I mean, like, they had like a dinner party. They had like a little party at their house. The uncle and his partner. And like, we hid in, one of the kids' rooms just by ourselves. Cause we were just and it had nothing to do with them. It was all us, It was all, everyone was perfectly nice to us, but we were still like, ugh. So, there was that. And then jump ahead to when I'm 31 and I go to Belize by myself for 9 days. Super different.
Tell me, why was it so different?
Because I didn't care anymore. Right? Like, I didn't have this fear of people judging me because I'm over 30. And once you turn 30, you lose that, a lot of it anyway.
I think it gets even better at 40.
Yeah.
And then it just progressively gets better and better.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't it feel like you kind of take off like a coat?
Yes.
Right? When you turn 30 and you're like, I just don't
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care. Like, obviously, I mean that in like, I'm going to be respectful of this place and these people and stuff, but I'm also
it's
don't
like
care if somebody
but it's
like
the insecure stuff. I feel like that you start like, if you think this about me and
like,
yada, yada.
I will 100% talk to you. I'll even try to talk to you in your language if you speak a different language than me, and I'm not scared to do that anymore. But at 21, I was like, can I have a coffee? Can I have a coffee? Yeah, like just really couldn't do it. And then in Belize, I was like I've talked to anybody. So
you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was talking to everybody.
Do you know how many puns I made? Oh, I made so many puns. What a great place to book a trip.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
Oh, so good. Erica would love that. Erica loves some good puns.
I love a pun. And so I guess that's kind of the only time that I've traveled alone. Every other time I've been with someone else. And so I went to, I guess I moved to Korea by myself.
Yeah.
Because I lived in Korea for around 2 years.
2 years. So part of your journey has been international teaching.
Yeah. So I graduated from college with a psych degree, which is, I'm going to go with mildly useful. Like mildly.
It gets better if you get your master's, I believe, right?
Yeah. Master's or PhD. And I had decided by the time I finished that degree that that's like not the road I wanted to go down, but you've already gotten so far. Like, well, I'm not going to let my parents fund like any more of my education, cause I was very, very lucky in that regard. But I'm not actually sure they would have continued if I was like, I'm going to switch my major 3 years into college. And it's going to take another 4. I think they would have been like, all right, we're going to sit down with you and talk about this terrible decision. So I got the psych degree, and I ended up getting a job at a psych lab, like study at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. And this is like 2009, so I was already panicking about getting a job anyway.
Yeah.
And I had started teaching myself Korean in college because I wanted to learn an Asian language that had different script.
Out of curiosity, why?
It was a bucket list thing. So I took Spanish I wanted to be fluent in 2 other languages, one of which was not a Latin script. So I took Spanish in college, and then I started teaching myself Korean because it's easiest to read. Because Japanese has 3 alphabets, which is 3 too many. And Chinese is tonal and character-based, but I am actually taking Chinese classes right now.
I love that this is on your bucket list. I'm like, that sounds hard.
It is. It is intellectually challenging. I will say that.
Good.
Got to keep my mind sharp.
Yeah, I like that.
It's got the propensity to decline rapidly. So
I am a testament. I can attest to that.
And Korean's super easy to read.
Okay.
Which is I think not a fact that a lot of people know.
No, didn't know that.
It was, the writing system was, made by a king in the 1400s named King Sejong, and he made it because but they'd been speaking Korean, but they'd been using Chinese characters to write it. And obviously you can only learn Chinese characters if you go to school. Like, there's some explicit instruction needed there. And so obviously most of the population was illiterate. So he designs this alphabet that's based on the shape of your mouth when you say the letter, and you can learn it in like a week. And so he designed it to make people equal and like to be able to have more of the population be literate no matter how rich you were.
Wow.
So
nice.
Yeah, it's a very cool story. I mean, they if you look at Korean, you see that it's not complicated as far as like how the letters look.
Yeah.
It's just circles and lines. And that's on purpose because he wanted it to be very simple, and it's all organized into syllabic blocks. So each like group of letters is one syllable, which is the same in Chinese. I recently learned that every character is one syllable. But in Japanese, those characters they use called kanji, and they're Chinese, based off Chinese characters, they can be 2 syllables. You just have to know.
You lost me like 5 minutes ago. Like, I'm like,
sorry.
I can't. No, I mean, I'm glad. I love the story. But my brain is like, cannot compute. Like the thought of learning a new language in my brain.
Yeah,
feels so hard.
It can be. I highly suggest if it's something you want to do that like you take an actual class, because I don't like studying it yourself is really difficult. I studied Korean for a long time before I went there and like took classes, and I think I learned more in the classes than I learned in the years
that you're doing it.
That I was doing it by myself. And I know that like, and I think that's a huge testament to people like who teach themselves like English through YouTube and stuff.
Gosh,
like,
yes.
And I meet so many people like that. But it's just not, I need some kind of like, I need somebody telling me.
I do too.
Like face to face.
Yes.
Like someone whose disappointment I can see in their eyes.
Oh, I like that.
You know what
too.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like I need that. I need you to be like, Emily,
Come on
did you
now.
do your homework? Oh, no.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't.
I need that.
Yeah. What drew you to wanting to teach internationally?
Honestly, it wasn't even about teaching. It was about learning the language. And I was like, well, why would I go to school there if I can just get paid to live there?
Smart.
So I later did end up going to school there.
So you were teaching and going to school?
No, I taught for a year, and like during that time I took some classes like at night. But I did end up going to one of the universities. They have a Korean language institute. And that was like 4 hours a day in the morning from like, I don't think it was this 9 to 12, 8 to 12, 9 to 1, 9 to 1. Mm-hmm. That's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I couldn't, with those hours, I couldn't have a job.
Yeah.
So I tutored illegally.
What? Oh my gosh.
Oh, sorry.
We're going to have to cut this out.
Illegally. Yeah.
I don't want the
Come and get me, Korea.
South Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come and get me. I tutored illegally.
Under the table.
Yeah, but I was pretty broke. And so, yeah, it wasn't even really about teaching for me. And I taught in a preschool, and I mean, the kids were adorable.
Oh, I bet. So cute.
They were also like rich children, which came with a special type of parent. I mean special in the way of like nightmarish, I guess.
Like, yeah. Like
entitled. And because I was taught in what is probably if I were to put it into an American perspective, probably the equivalent of like the Upper East Side of New York. Like that,
Yeah.
that is like the wealth level and like
Gossip Girl. Mm-hmm. I didn't watch that, but
Yeah.
that's the only thing I could think to.
yeah, like just like, or maybe like LA, just like really like rich,
Yeah.
a lot of like nouveau riche kind of, but really wanted their kids to excel. And there were definitely parents that were a lot more chill. I tutored for a girl, after I stopped working there that I had taught there, and her parents were super cool and not like that, but that was kind of the only example of.
I remember
of that.
once you told me that to get to a field trip, you guys took a helicopter.
Oh, no. The helicopter. So one girl that I taught, I think her grandpa was like a VP at Samsung, and we were going on a field trip to a strawberry farm, and the mom was like, if there's a problem, like if there's an emergency, let me know and I can like send the helicopter.
Oh, but you didn't need the helicopter.
No,
because
it wasn't, because we got there and they like looked at the strawberry field and like all took turns like on like squashing some strawberries for jam, and then ate like a cracker with strawberry jam on it, and then we went back because it was like that far away.
Oh,
So stupid.
So stupid.
But the nice thing about teaching 3-year-olds at that point was that they all fell asleep.
Yeah.
So me and my co-teacher were like, both fell asleep too.
And that was probably their attention span level. Like, they're not going to be out, like, picking a whole bushel of
and, like, we weren't even allowed to pick them.
Oh. So you squished them and then...
And we, like, literally looked at them. And then they each took turns, like, ding, 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 and then next one.
Posed for a picture, and then that was
pretty much.
That's so funny.
And we took a lot of weird field trips. We went to this kids' theater production, and it was about utensils. It's just like, what? Like, each of the people, like, it was like, that was their character. It was like, this is a fork, and like, this is a knife, and the spoon, and like...
Was it teaching them good etiquette?
Oh, I don't know. It was all in Korean.
It was probably like a comment on our society, and you were like, I don't know.
Well, I didn't have enough Korean at the time to understand exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Although it was pretty simple. So, like, we could get the plot, like the basic plot, from the actions. And it was a lot of, like, asking the audience to participate. Like, what, can he do it? Like, yeah, you can do it. And, like, what? And all I could think was, like, man, I bet all these people went to theater school.
Oh.
And, like, this is it.
Yeah.
Is this their big break?
Yeah.
Does this kind of suck? Feels like it kind of sucks.
It could be great for them.
Maybe you have, like, a passion for children's entertainment, and that's great, but maybe this is the only role you could get.
Yeah. It looks good on a resume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just the knife.
Yeah.
I played the
Or a
knife.
spork. Was there a spork?
Yeah, no.
No spork?
No, and...
Just traditional silverware.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, back to... We are bound to get off track a million times, but...
Well, I feel like we're finding our way, though.
Yes.
We're just working it out, so...
So the
need the travel... So teaching internationally wasn't necessarily for the teaching. It was more for the opportunity to go international.
Exactly. And, like, the teaching was just kind of a means to an end. And I remember... Because, like, at the time... And at this particular preschool, because they're all, like, private, and you don't have to, you can do whatever you want.
Good to know.
But the requirement was just that you had to have a bachelor's degree. Mm-hmm. And my school only hired North American white ladies. So that's, like, a cool thing that's allowed.
Was that stated? Like, that was the...
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, in the way of, like, we prefer, like... the North American accent, like American or Canadian, and there were conspicuously no women of color. And then they didn't hire men because I think they had an incident with a man, like, early in it. But whatever. I remember I asked the head teacher, like, do you have any tips? Because, like, I've never taught before. And she goes, teach them, love them. I was like... What? How?
You literally started teaching with, like, you were like,
that was the foundation of my teaching.
You're like, hey, teach them, love them. All right, cool.
And I will say that, like, the vast majority of the Korean teachers that I worked with, and I was very lucky that my Korean co-teachers were both, like, very competent, qualified people. Yeah. And, like, not only, had teaching degrees and experience and stuff, but just also were, like, good at their job. So, which was not the case for everybody. Yeah. But I was very lucky in that regard. I became really good friends, especially with my first co-teacher. And I, like, went on vacation with her family. It was cool. But it did, like, I will say this. I left there being like, I don't want to teach. That's definitely not my calling. And I think it was just that I didn't want to teach preschool. Because and I think that just, like, there was kind of a tumultuous environment there. And That school did end up, like, closing, and they fired everyone right before they closed, so they didn't have to pay any, like, severance, and it was really, like, a bunch of illegal stuff, and the girls that were still working there ended up suing them, suing the owner, and were able to recoup some of their money, but, like, I mean, they all lost out on, like, at least $5,000.
Wow.
Like, and that's the thing about the private industry is, like, it's pretty unregulated.
Yeah.
And so things like that happen all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember the two of the girls that were still working there when I was in school were like, hey, Emily, like, they're coming in and putting red tape, like, red, like, dots on the furniture. Like, what does that mean? And I was like, that means they're selling everything. Like, they're closing. You need to figure it out. And, like, literally a week later.
Crazy.
And you know what? The president goes to the girls when they get real mad about him firing all of them. He's like, sue me.
Oh.
So they did. And they won.
Oh, that's amazing.
But
That's amazing.
yeah, so I had, like, good experiences and bad experiences there. I will say the one thing that it introduced me to was the style of teaching that they did was a special style called Reggio, which is really similar to Montessori.
Oh.
So all of the things that the kids do are it's led by their interest, by student interest. So you couldn't really plan more than, like, 1 or 2 days ahead because you kind of saw, like, what they were. You're supposed to see what they liked the most and, like, go with it. So we did a bunch of different projects. And so you do, like, one project for a while and you kind of hit every subject in that. Like, so you hit math and science and history and writing, like English. And we did Inventors Project. And then at the end, they all made, like, inventions. And we did Magic Project, which,
With
first of all,
preschoolers?
yeah, they were like 5 and 6.
Oh.
These kids were a little older. I will say that I do not like magic, and I not only had to do Magic Project, I had to learn magic tricks so I could teach them how to do magic tricks.
So do you know any magic tricks?
No, I don't.
You don't remember
I
any?
ended up not being able to do it.
Aw. It's because you're too honest.
I could explain it,
Yeah.
but I couldn't, like, do it myself, so I'd, like, direct them. And my co-teacher ended up being the one who, like, did most of that, and I did, like, more of the writing stuff. But they did a magic show for the school, which was pretty cute. And by pretty cute, I mean really cute.
Like,
super adorable. Yeah.
Adorable.
That's the only kind of magic show I want to see is, like, 5-year-olds
kids.
messing it up, you know?
Yeah. Being super cute with it.
Yeah. And we did, with the little babies, we did, like, magnet project because we saw that they liked playing with magnets. So we did, like, a very simple, like, thing with that. And the worst project I ever did was this little boy just rolls up with a little tank full of tadpoles.
Oh.
And we were like,
What?
why did you bring these? And we, like, called his mom. And his mom was like, well, we thought maybe you guys could have them in the classroom. And we were like,
I don't want to.
none of us know how to, like, neither of us know how to take care of tadpoles. And so we do tadpole project, right? And a couple of them, when they start transitioning to frogs, end up dying because we didn't know that you have to have, like somewhere for them to chill and, like, how there has to be less water and, like, we didn't know.
so
and so
much.
we did have, like, a little lesson on death and a funeral.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we buried them. And then at the end, when they all turned into frogs, we went to go, we did a cute little field trip where we went to a stream that was near the school and we
Release them.
had a picnic lunch and we released them. But I'm trying to do it in a very ceremonial way, right? And I have this, like, container of them and I'm kind of, like, trying to shake them out of it and they're not going. And then the bus driver, who's this, like, you know, old Korean guy, like, grabs it from me and, like, wades into the stream and just, like,
Oh.
and it was like, okay, well, bye, frog.
Why? You were like, I was trying to have a moment?
Yeah, I'll never forget that. He just like grabbed the container out of my hands and like washed those frogs out of it, right into the stream. And I was just like, we came all the way here for you to do that.
Oh my God.
He was like so frustrated with me, like,
pop, pop, pop.
Yeah. So, but the cool thing about that is it introduced me to the style of, project-based learning, which is doing a project rather than like information test. And that's something that now, as a qualified teacher,
let's clarify. Now a qualified teacher. We're many years later.
That is something that my class is all project-based learning. And because I had come back from Korea and I was like, I don't want to teach. And I end up in this terrible corporate real estate job as a lease analyst, which is the most boring job on the planet. Like, I would have rather
read leases.
Yeah. Okay. I would have rather cleaned toilets, chopped wood, anything. And it was really awful. And I was like, I think that the only job I've had that I didn't hate going to was teaching. So I ended up going to grad school for a year, and that was 5 years ago. And so this is my 4th year of teaching as a qualified teacher with a master's degree.
Good job. Congrats.
In teaching and education.
Education.
Yes.
All those classes of stage.
Yes. And in it is. Life is a performance, Samantha.
Throwback. That's Emily's mom.
She's not British.
No, but it's nice to get rid of the British accent.
It really, I think, encapsulates her like personality.
Emily, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad we got to have double dose of chatting.
Yeah, and you know what? The last 2 times I came out here, I was over an hour late, and this time I was only 15 minutes late. So I just if we could just recognize progress.
Thank you. Thank you
everyone.
So much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Really appreciate our time together. And I look forward to either having you back in the studio or setting something up. I don't know, maybe even internationally. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. But maybe we could one day.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day do an international podcast. I don't know, though.
Who knows? Yeah. Whatever. Thanks.
And that's a wrap for now.
Thanks for listening to Flushing It Out with Samantha Spittle. Music provided by twinmusicom.org. Song titled Night at the Dance Hall. Sound editing by me, Jeremy Spittle. A special thanks to our studio sponsor, M&M Exteriors. Visit their website at mmexteriors.com for all of your roofing, siding, and gutter needs in the Northern Virginia area. Visit our website at flushingitout.com and be sure to subscribe. This has been a Spitfire production.
That was the greatest thing I've ever heard.